with that, I'm done.
Okay, thank you. Do any of the members have questions for Jim? Yes, sir. Representative Harris.
A moment ago, you showed the circles. You had a little dot, and then it got all the way up.
Yes.
And then, Jane, you said in Singapore, instead of the circle fill the whole screen. Is that what Singapore is doing in relation to all the other little circles you had? Or dots?
That's exactly right. Singapore's said that it is going to have, for the whole country, connectivity at that level, and compared to the smaller kinds of bandwidth that we're talking about, that's where they're heading. That's also, that big circle is where in Japan companies compete today. That's what they're offering. You can't even get in Japan the kinds of broadband that we call broadband here. It's not even available. It's too puny. You can't buy it for any amount of money. They're competing up at the big circle level. In 2010, the level of competition where companies compete in Japan will be off that chart. It'll be at 10 gigabits. So you can imagine a bigger circle. How can we compete in that kind of world unless we take serious the fact that America needs to get very serious about this, make it a high priority, and move forward as rapidly as possible.
Representative Harris.
On the map that you showed when we ranked 26th, do you know where we ranked by chance in the southeast or south?
I don't know, but I can get that information for you. I'd be happy to get it free if you'd like.
Representative Brown.
In my community, there's a concern that the bigger carriers are investing in the higher income, more denser areas, and not in the rural, lower income, maybe less dense areas where the costs are higher for what they're getting or something. This is the feeling they have. How do we know whether that's true or not, and if it is there anything we can do about it in terms of expanding access to even the puny broadband? We're still trying to get puny, even though I would love to move beyond.
I understand. Now, I can't answer your question specifically with regard to your community, but I can tell you that historically there's good reason to believe that it is happening. And this is not to be critical. Large providers have shareholders, they have Wall Street to address, they have limitations. They have to spend their money in a way that makes money for their shareholders and investors, and that isn't necessarily going to be the best use of their money. That's what happened in the electric field. That's why we had cooperatives and municipalities forming their own providers. Now, that's a fact of life. And as a country, we have to build on that fact. It's true everywhere, not just in the United States. Other countries like Japan and others are saying we have a social responsibility to bring all of our communities into the broadband age. Sweden, for example, now has close to 100% availability across the country, and they've said, okay, we've achieved this, but the level of bandwidth isn't high enough. We need to go from DSL levels up to...
So how do we address that business reality for the rural communities?
First, you scream.
Ah!
Right. And you scream, you beg, you persuade your legislature to say this is a high priority. This is a responsibility that we Americans have to all of our citizens, to give them the tools to make of their lives what they deserve. The ability to remain competitive, to earn an income, to get all those advantages, to enable their kids to stay in the community. We owe that to every community, in my view. We owe that to every community in our country, and your legislature, of which you are a member, has a responsibility to provide the resources to make that happen.
Anything in addition to screaming?
Well, yes, there are many ways that this can happen. There are subsidies. It'll take subsidies, no question about it. The question is how best to channel them and where the money is. one of the reasons why we recommended this year of intensive study is to dig out every last available dollar that's available in this state. There are transportation funds, there are universal service funds, there are any number of things that might be out there. When we begin to look in other states, we find it. People find resources, and I don't know where they all are now, but a process like that can help find them. And to the major providers, step up and do it. And it's a responsibility that we share, including you. And so let's work it together.
Absolutely, Representative Brown.
I've also been asked questions about the fact that where we have gaps in our rural areas and where we have wireless providers, for example, that might be willing, they need something to hook. They need to hook on to some kind of existing infrastructure that may belong to the other, I guess, broadband carriers or whatever, the other carriers we have. What can we do to require, if we need to require, encourage, say a Time Warner to let a wireless carrier connect to their, whatever they need to connect to provide the wireless